Hey y'all, and welcome to Stivers Homestead. I'm Zach, and we are in the garden. So we're calling it. We're free of our last frost, and it is time to get all of our crops into the garden. Now, one thing with a pretty big size garden that we have here, we tackle it in pieces because it's just a lot to try to tackle in one day. And it's something that we enjoy doing, so you want to make sure that you're enjoying it. So my job today is to try to tackle as many beds as I can to get to enjoy it, and then we'll get the rest of it in probably by this weekend kind of thing. In zone 6B, which is where we are in Kentucky, our last frost is usually what we call Mother's Day, May 9th-ish time frame. They push Mother's Day a weekend past, but we are at least past Derby. Derby is the secondary piece because they kind of flip-flop every once in a while. Checked our 10-day forecast, doesn't look like we're gonna get below 60, 50, 60 at any time. So we're calling it and calling it safe. Now, last night we had a ginormous storm roll through. Y'all, this thing was terrifying. It came through about 3 a.m. Thunder so loud, I thought it was gonna shatter every window we had. It was nuts. Thankfully, no damage. It was just a really big, heavy rainstorm. But one thing that made that good, besides, as you can tell, the grass needs to be mowed now because it really shot everything up. It's got all of my soil nice and moist and wet. So this is gonna help us know that when I plant those seeds in there or I plant the plants, they're already gonna have good nutrition from rainwater. I always love doing it after a good rain because rainwater is a soft water and it's gonna be better for your plants. If we was real dry out here, I would have to come back and then hand water with a water hose, which is fine. You know, you can do that. Just I'm taking the elements that we were given in a beneficial way to get the plants in the ground. If it's dry, you still water with your water hose. It's just normally hard water and your plants don't absorb all the nutrients that it can in that form, so it doesn't take the best kickstart. So, taking advantage of the situation, but as you can tell, there are a lot of weeds in these bad boys you can see right there. So that's the first step, gotta get the weeds out. This bed's good. It's got peas in it, and I ain't gonna lie to y'all, we're gonna see if it's a mistake or not. I actually Googled it afterwards. I planted onions all on each side of these. And Mr. Google Pants says onions are about the worst thing that you can companion plant with peas. So, Jen said we're finally having what looks like a pretty decent pea year and I go and ruin it. But we'll find out. We've done rebel gardening our whole lives and everything Google says doesn't always mean it's right. So we're gonna check it out and see. Hopefully it doesn't stunt our peas and they keep growing as well as they are and everything's good. But that one's good. So then we're gonna start with this one. Not exactly sure what I'm gonna be putting in it just yet. This might be our new bush bean bed because they were over there last time. I don't know. Get it cleaned out, reassess, and then we'll go from there. But let's get these weeds out first. It's the next morning. Beautiful, foggy morning. I love foggy mornings. In our little area here, it's so pretty seeing it lift up and above the mountains and all that good stuff. But yesterday, y'all, I got headphones in and got to planting. It was so hot. I mean, I had sweat dripping off my face, all kinds of stuff. I was just soaking wet. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna plant it all and then I'll come back and talk to it when I'm clean and not so dirty. So we got a lot of work done. I'm gonna show you what everything we did. There's still a lot of work to go, but it's like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, take it at pieces. Don't try to chunk off your whole garden all in one day. It's something we got a long growing season. You can take a couple days and make sure you're doing it right. Let's see what we got planted. Okay, so let's lay the groundwork here. Where I left you all, we had cleaned this bed, which we have decided is gonna be the new tomato bed. The tomato bed was right there last year, but to keep the bugs confused, we're moving it down here because we're gonna do the same cattle panel line that we have with the peas in here, and that's how we're gonna tie our tomatoes up. So we didn't get them planted, but the bed is prepped. Then you all started seeing me planting this bed. So let's talk about what we planted. Right here in the front, these four, are ground cherries. So we've talked about ground cherries a lot on this channel. We love ground cherries. They're like the garden candy. They're really sweet and yummy. You can make really good jellies out of them. So we put them right here in the forefront. Over here is where we have one of our loofahs. Now you see we got one right there. It'll plant there as well. But they look nice and healthy, and look, he's already got his little guy about ready to grab. This is probably one of our better years of loofahs, and especially the size of them when we're transplanting. Usually they're really small because they're such slow growers. But 2 of these plants, that one and that one, will completely take this over. It'll take over the sides. It'll try to go over here. It's gonna go down here and everywhere. You don't need many loofah plants. I'm telling you, don't go plant like 5 or 6 of them here, because it's just gonna completely destroy everything that you have. 2's plenty. And then what you can't see is a bunch of bush beans. So in this little 6-foot section here, we direct sowed some bush beans that our neighbor gave us, which we appreciate, Mike. And we always love homegrown seeds. And what I mean by that are seeds that grow really well in your area that other gardeners have already grown and saved that seed. You're gonna have a much better tolerance of bugs, of your weather, of everything from a seed that was grown in your area, saved in your area, and then replanted in your area. Those seeds are always going to do better than seeds that are germinated and saved somewhere else. Now, that's not saying that seeds aren't going to do good. I'm just saying it's going to give you a little extra leg because it's already used to your climate. So this little 6-foot area, we're going to try those out. And then the rest around the cattle panels, there's 2 rows behind the cattle panel, 3 rows where there's not cattle panels. Those are all the I think they're called green blaze bush beans. Yeah, the blaze bush beans from Hoss Tools. It's one of the new ones. I think last year was the first year, and we really liked them. So we're growing them all here. Right in this area, you're gonna see cucumbers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe a little bit of overkill, but they don't take over as much like loofahs do. So we got 6 of them here that'll grow up and over. On this side, we'll most likely put a pole bean to kind of meet them in the middle, because neither one takes off so much that it's going to completely cover the cattle panel. Down here we have 2 plants. These are this is the last cattle panel of this row. There's 3 of them here. These are the swan gourds. So they look like a birdhouse gourd, but they have a long neck that curves over like a swan head per se. So it's called a speckled swan gourd. So there's 2 of those there. I do have 2 more. I'm deciding if I want to put them here or not. I have a feeling they're going to be just like loofahs and absolutely take over. But I still might plant them and just see what happens. And yes, I know, because I'm sure somebody's going to comment about it, that my board came off there. That's one of my jobs today, is come in with my drill and some screws and re-drill everything back in. So I know. All right, and like I mentioned here, we got this one completely weeded, and this is going to be it's going to be completely our tomato bed, 100%. So we'll put the cattle panel right down the middle, and then we'll just alternate back and forth tomatoes on each side of that, so they'll have plenty of room to grow. And this year we're not going to be pruning them very much. We're going to let them grow a little bit wider because we have a lot of determinate tomatoes that we're going to be growing, and with determinate tomatoes you don't want to prune much. So we're going to be doing that. That'll give them plenty of space to grow out, plenty of space to move and wiggle, but also have support to stay upright and not fall over. Really excited for this bed. I also did want to say, if you were paying attention when I was weeding this, we had some pretty established weeds up in this bad boy. So what I did was go in there and hand get those out first. So the biggest thing with weeds, and people are going to tell you, is you just need to keep the soil disturbed. That way their roots cannot grab root, or cannot lay into the soil and actually put themselves in there. So when they're pretty well established weeds and they're pretty big, I want to go in and actually try to get those roots out. Yeah, it's time consuming and it takes a lot of time, but when they're that established, that's what you want to do. You want to pull them out. Then I came through with my broad fork and my single wheel hoe. Broad fork, it's actually a potato fork. And came and then turned the dirt, because then I got all the big ones out. So this is getting all those loose ones, any roots I might have missed, and disturbing the soil completely before we plant in there. That's why I did it that way and didn't go straight for the single hoe or the potato fork to start, because I wanted to make sure that I set myself up for success and truly got a lot of those big established roots out of there. So over here, this is the last bed. This is the pea bed. I got some, these are some more cucumbers and butternut squash that are right here. So we ran out of room. Or we ran out of peas. So we had this open area, and just again, to kind of help take over the weeds and not let them win, I went ahead and planted some of these, because the peas won't last forever. And then so these will go ahead and have a good start growing and vining. And then once these are gone, we'll probably throw some more cucumbers or something like that down to just keep this bed going. Then on this side of the bed, the other end of the pea bed, we planted the nasturtiums that Jen started from seed, and they're looking really good. I just thought they'd be really pretty on this end. I also forgot to mention at the very end of the bed, I planted some mammoth sunflowers. Now those bad boys get really big and really tall and really heavy. So I planted them at the end of that because I was like, you know what, I can tie them to that T-post to kind of help hold them up. So that's why those are way in the back there. And I know so far that doesn't feel like a whole lot, but because I had to prep these beds first before planting, that just in itself took a long time. However, I got this planted too. So this is what we call our flower bed that's attached to the greenhouse. So I got all of Zach's zinnias in the ground. Not all of them, just a lot of them. So it's a big mix of a bunch of different zinnias that we started here. We have our hollyhock that is on its second year coming back, and look at there. That's gonna be pretty. Got some more zinnias beside it. And then in here, I planted a bunch of sunflowers too, just to have a pretty end cap of sunflowers at the end of it. I've been so jealous of seeing everybody's beautiful zinnias on social media. I am a lover for zinnias. Even Mimsy, our good friend, way back when we started this channel, we called them ZZ Tops. I think she called them ZZ Tops. Zach's zinnias, ZZ Tops. And so it's always kind of hung on to that. We even have people painted us plaques that we still have that are like Zach's zinnias. That's how deep my love are for zinnias. So I planted a bunch of them. Still have quite a few that are started, and I'm going to be planting those in front of the store as well. So pretty excited about that. So all in all, that took me probably about four and a half hours to get just that planted. It was a lot. But as you can tell in this greenhouse, we got a long ways to go. So all of our beautiful tomatoes that are just looking absolutely fantastic. I mean, they're just perfect looking tomatoes. We got our peppers still to go. We got a lot of our okra to go, squash, zucchini, watermelons, more flowers. Did I say peppers, herbs? Just so much still to go into the ground. But it's stuff we're gonna keep chunking out and chunking out and chunking out. I definitely wanna get the tomatoes in next because I wanna go ahead and get them started, tomatoes and peppers. After that, the rest of the stuff is a little bit quicker. So, you know, you can go ahead and get them in whenever you can get them in, basically. But we want to get the ones that we know take a little bit, and especially in our climate, we need all the time we can get with them. So peppers and tomatoes are definitely next on that list. But a lot of work still to do, but it's the most exciting part of the year. Jim was working the store and running it, and when I came over there after I got done, I said, it feels so amazing to literally have food growing in our yard again. I don't know how to explain it. You only know it once you do it. And it's just like, once you know that there's literally food starting to grow on your property, in your backyard, in your front yard, wherever it may be, that excitement level, it just really builds. Like it gives you a sight of the future and all the preserving you're gonna be doing, and knowing that all the healthy food that's gonna be going into your gut and your family's gut. And it's just absolutely amazing. Like I dream of this time. Like I love gardening, and I love having this such simplistic and enjoyable thing give us such a reward back for just planting and watering and taking care of them. Like it's such a simple thing to do. And I know we all struggle with it sometimes and not everything goes well, but starting a garden is so easy and it's so much enjoyment, and that reward is ginormous. I think one of our most favorite things as humans to say is we don't have time or we don't have the space. And it's so funny when we say that because it's completely untrue. What we're saying is it's not a priority right now. It's not a priority, and we don't want to sacrifice space for something else to garden. Because that's the one thing that we preach on here that I know everyone in any situation 100% can do, no matter where you are. It's all about making time for it, making it a priority, and making space for it. Even if you're in an apartment, if you have a balcony, you have space. Container gardening can grow you so much food that you have no idea until you try. But you can pack so much food into a container and grow it and start preserving. So it's the one thing that if you're not doing, that is your 100% next top priority to do, is to start a garden. And if you have already got an established garden and you've been a gardener, add one more raised bed, add one more thing to your garden to start testing it out. Because it's always good to have your tried and true recipes basically in the garden, but it's always good to keep testing yourself. Keep adding one new item that takes away from that grocery bill, that either it succeeds or doesn't succeed, but it doesn't matter because you're trying and you're learning. Because then after a few years, it'll be your tried and true recipe that goes into the list. But we're never gonna keep growing if we don't keep trying and keep making it a priority and keep adding at least one more thing every single year that's unique and new. So make sure that you're doing that, and make sure that you're making it a priority, because having a garden, you don't have to worry about trailers, you don't have to worry about processing, harvesting, killing, feeding, things like that. that are expensive and are difficult when it comes to livestock and animals, this is so much more simple. Give them a little fertilizer, try to help keep the bugs off with some organic neem oil and DE and stuff like that. And then other than that, it's just water and sun, and make sure that you are making it a priority and giving it the time it needs to succeed. And besides that, it might literally be one of the most therapeutic things that you could ever do. I know I say it a lot, but it is. I like to do it in the mornings or in the evenings, probably mainly in the mornings, because it's before our humidity hits, and our property is just beautiful in the morning. So I usually get done with chores, milking, doing all that stuff, coming over here, walking through the garden, picking out some of the weeds, because if you just do it every day, you'll keep ahead of it, checking on the plants, making sure everything's okay. And it's so nice. Don't play music in the mornings. Just listen to the birds, listen to the nature itself, and just become one in your garden. And I promise you, you'll be like, this is worth it whether I grow anything or not. It is. So y'all, I hope that your garden is starting to get growing. I know we're all in a mix of zones. Right now, it's kind of our turn in the 6 area and the 5 area. Don't worry, 4, 3s, and 2s. Your time's coming soon. Believe me, we were jealous as well of all of our southerner friends too. Because they're already getting tomatoes, flowers blooming, all that good stuff. The one thing to remember with zones is we have a change of jealousy, right? So like we always talk to our good friends over at Haas, and he's like, yeah, in July, it's like just hunker into the house. There's nothing growing, it's too hot. So they have that early area and then the later area to be able to grow some of these summer crops. But you know, the Southerners, they have an area where they're jealous of us too. So take your time, be patient, make sure that you're watching your forecast. Don't get things out too early, because the last thing you want to do is just get them out and not even give them a chance to survive, because bam, here comes a freeze. So be patient, don't overwhelm yourself with your garden, chunk it off a little at a little. We have a long growing season, and most importantly, do one more thing, or at least start. Like 100%, if you're watching this video, I need to know that you at least have 1 tomato growing in a container somewhere. Okay, make that a deal with me. All right, y'all, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. It is gardening season, and I'm so excited. We love y'all. Until the next one, bye.